Moving on to the next one, we're going to use one of these stacked book little decorations from a Dollar Tree. They're not put together very well, but you know, you can fix that if you want, or you can take the attitude that I had and nobody's going to look at the bottom or back, so you can just leave it alone. I took the little sad ribbon off, but we are going to use it. And then I've got some more beautiful ribbon from Dollar Tree. Love the blue ribbon, the bee ribbon, the honeycomb, and then the gold I already had. That came from the thrift store, I believe. I'm using some plaster chalk paint, but you can use whatever color you like. I think the white's going to be pretty here. And then these little dippers, these little spoons that I got from Goodwill. And then these gorgeous yellow flowers, just because they coordinate. You can use whatever color you like. I'm trying to stick with my theme of black, yellow, gold, white, you know, for bees. And I think it's a beautiful transition from coming out of winter and attempting to have some type of a spring weather. I live in the South, so we get spring early here. We get a very short winter. So if you live in the South, this type of thing might be right up your alley. Or if you live up north and you're cold, this ought to warm you right up. So I'm just going to paint this, all the surfaces that I'll see, and I'm going to use the back part of this beautiful calendar from Dollar Tree and trim it down. You know, there's the little bitty ones and there's a larger one that's in the corner. I'm just using my little trimmer here. I've got something close to it in my Amazon store. You can find that link in the description box if you are looking for something like this. Not the exact one, but something similar. I'm going to use my glue stick here to put this down on the box or the books, whichever one you want to call it. And you can stick this down any way you want. Use your double stick tape if that's what you have. Use your Mod Podge if that's what you have. This works fine for me. I'm just going to kind of pat it down with my hands in the spot that I lower than the middle because I want to put something on the top. And then I'm just using my brayer to press it down, but you can use whatever you want to make sure that it is firmly affixed to your surface. Now I have these manicure scissors that I use all the time in crafting for my little fussy cutting, and I'm going to just use it to go down the centers where the separations in the books would be, just to give it a little depth so that you can see that brown through there. It gives it a little shadow and makes it appear more like books stacked on top of one another. You certainly don't have to do that, and if you just barely put any on like I did on this end, then you wouldn't have to work so hard like I'm doing now. Hindsight, right? Alright, so we're going to take this spoon and we're going to put some hot glue in it. Now if you have yellow glue sticks or gold glue sticks, you could definitely use that, but I don't. So I'm going to make do with what I have. I'm going to add a big spoonful of what is going to be our honey on here, and I'm going to hold it upright so that it will form a drip. And you can see here that it's starting to drip. I have sped it up a little bit, but it's starting to drip. Watch your fingers, it's hot. Let it drip down a little bit. Give it a second to kind of firm up, and then sit it down, let it dry the rest of the way. And look at that. Perfect. Now we're going to go on to our book while that is sitting up, and I'm just taking the side of the lead of a pencil and going across, dragging it across the edge of the books to make it look like pages. Make it a little more realistic, I think. And then the same thing on this side, just drag it across back and forth. And then after you've gotten that done, you can just take your fingers or the side of your hand and just smear it just a little bit. And you see, it kind of looks like pages, right? Now, I'm attempting to make a glaze here. I'm using some gloss Mod Podge and some King's Gold. Going to shake them up. Going to use more of that Mod Podge and just a little bit of that really strongly pigmented gold there. I'm going to mix it up. You can add some brown to it to make it look more like the brown of honey, whichever one you want to do. But this was an experiment for me, so I think in the end it turned out good. Mix it up really well, and then I'm going to use a fine little tip brush here to go just along all around where that hot glue is. I'm not coloring my spoon with it because I want this to look like, to some extent, it should represent honey, right? It takes a few coats so that you don't have brush marks in here anymore, but be sure that you let it dry nicely between each coat. Then I'm going to, while it's drying, work on decorating the book stack. So the binders of the books need a little something. And rather than writing, I thought it would be nice to just use some decorations on the spines of the books. So that's what I'm doing here. No words, just decorations. I'm using double stick tape and then a length of my ribbon to go on the top. And I'm just going to kind of alternate. I'm going to use the honeycomb on the top, and then the next layer will be the bees. And there's definitely a pattern to these bees, upright and upside down, so you might want to be mindful of that if in the end you find out that you put your bees on upside down after you've completed your work and then your heart is broken. Okay, so now we're down to the last layer, and this is how it's going to look, and I like it so far. Sometimes, you know, you just got to keep going on something when you kind of hesitate. Just keep going with it and see what happens. I mean, it's crafting. We make mistakes and we can fix things easily. So if the edges hanging over a little bit bother you, just take a little bit of your stick glue, rub it on there, and then press it down and hold it for a second, and it will cup under for you. So now the same two ribbons that I used before, I'm going to cut same length, and we're going to use that to go around the top of our box. And I think I have about 18 inches of ribbon in this. I think that's what it is. And I still have some ribbon left over, so I'm glad of that because I really, really like this. Now I'm fiddling around here to try to decide what type of a knot I want or how I want this ribbon to lay. So I've just decided to double knot the gold over the top of the little bee ribbon. And you can just twist those. If they won't lay right, use a little dab of glue, and then it'll stay just, you know, where you put it. But I like it right around the top. And I'm just going to slant cut these ribbons. I can't imagine trying to take the time to dovetail these. They're small ribbons. I don't think it's necessary. But you do whatever your little heart desires. Now, those little tails are staying exactly where I put them. And I'm going to add a flower because you've got to have flowers there, right, for bees? I could have used the little same flowers as on the box, but I just decided to use the roses. Now you can see this is an example of how they turn out when you've had several layers of paint. I think it looks like it has a little honey on it, maybe mustard. Okay, so I'm just going to divide the bottom just a little bit so we can see both colors. I think it gives a nice little touch. And I've just tucked that honey spoon right underneath the knot. Look at it from all your little angles and decide what else you need. I wanted to trim this stem a little bit and then make a few more little additions. You could also use something like if you had like a jeweled bee, or if you had a button with the bee on it, that would be really precious here if you wanted to try that. I'm just going to use the head off of one of the other little roses, and I'm going to tuck that right under that knot, and it will also help hold that spoon handle in place. So now they're all secure. What do you think about it? I really like this one. So cute. And I've never done a book stack before as a project, so this is my first time. What do you think? I think it looks pretty good. For the next one, I'm going to use one of these little printouts. I will link the video below where I made these. I'm going to use some glossy Mod Podge. I'm going to use some foam, a little watering can, some of these little flowers, and some greenery. Use whatever you like. So this is printed on tissue paper. All you have to do is just cut this out. You don't have to cut it real close because you're not going to see that because the backing is white and so is the can. I'm going to add my Mod Podge down in the area that I will be adding my little beehive or my skip, whichever one this is, since it has a little door on it. Whoops. Okay, now I'm going to gently press this in place. This is tissue paper, so keep in mind it is fragile. You don't want to be too rough with this. And then I'm going to help lay my edges down in the Mod Podge that's already there by just taking that same brush and just going over the top. Now you can see that I'm taking this flat brush and tapping it into the cracks in the details in that can. I like to do this because this makes it look more like it is hand painted. And then same thing here. If you need to add a little more Mod Podge, just add it on there. You could use school glue also if you would like, but I'm not sure that it has a glossy finish. And like I said, the can has an enamel look, so I want this to kind of blend in. And this is how it looks. Look, my baby cane. He wanted to put his hand in there, so he's giving me some love. Got to stop for the love, right? All right, a little more Mod Podge on there after it dries, just to keep everything secure and make sure everything is blended in nicely. I love this. These are so sweet. I mean, not if you get stung, but really, if you think about their sense of community and the way they protect one another, it's just a beautiful thing. There you go. All right, so now all you have to do is start adding in your florals. I lost a piece of my footage. I don't know what happened. Can't find it. The camera ate it. So I'll tell you what I did briefly. If you imagine a star shape, right in the center of that star is where I placed my tallest greenery pick. And then I made points out from that with greenery. And then working my way upward, I added in my little flower picks. And I did that all the way around. And now what you're seeing me do is just going back in there with the extra little pieces and adding those in. You know how I do this. I use pretty much the same technique every time, and I have lots of videos where I do floral arrangements and things like that. So be sure you go, check those out. Go to my videos and find the ones that have floral arranging, and you can find some details, some better details on that. Again, I'm sorry about that. It's just gone. I don't know. It's gone. But now I'm just filling it out. One thing I always do is turn my project from side to side. You could use a turntable if that's helpful to do that. And just go round and round. Make sure you don't have any foam showing. Make sure everything is balanced and pretty. And I love the look of this white and green. It's so simple and cottagey to me, and I think it's just beautiful for springtime. Very simple and pretty. And you can use any type of greenery you have. You can use thrifted stuff. You can pull it off of other things that you have and use it again. I mean, repurpose your things. Really stretch your dollar. Okay, now I'm going to take 3 pieces of jute, and these are about 2 feet long, these stretches, these pieces. I get my jute from the Dollar Tree, but I do thrift it. When I see it, I pick it up because I use it a lot. And I'm going to pull it up here around right under the lip. And I'm going to give it a tie. And then you can keep your things from slipping around if you just use a little bit of hot glue under the knot. It won't slide down, especially when you have those cans that you get from Dollar Tree, those little planters that are silver with the rope on them. They taper downward, so if you tie anything around the top, it's going to fall unless you add a little glue. So just keep that in mind. I'm just tying a very simple bow here, and I'm going to trim off my ends for a little extra embellishment on the top. And now I'm going to add my other honey spoon. Hot glue, I'm going to place it kind of behind the bow and then pull my bow up and then separate those little layers of the strings. This adds that little rustic touch that I love to my cottage pieces. And I think it is just adorable. What do you think? Is this something you might try? If you can't find the exact thing, you can always find something similar. I'm going to start off with some of these little miniature pots, 4 of them, a smooth paintbrush and a chippy brush, of course. Here are the measurements, and then some Mod Podge for paper and some chalk paint in plaster. Somebody donated these, and I'll be using this today on this beautiful box. This is just a thrifted box that I've had forever. Here are the measurements in case you want to do one of these for yourself. I'm going to start by trying to sand off this word and to definitely give this box a nice smooth finish. Y'all, today's video is very special. It is going to be done with a couple of my friends and we have giveaways coming, so I'll give you full information on that in just a little bit. All right, so after we sand, we need to wipe away all the grit and the dust. Right, I'm going to grab that beautiful chalk paint. You can really use any color white you want, but the idea is to use a light color so that all the details will pop on the napkin. All right, I am going to start by just lightly putting on some of this paint. I'm going to gradually build this up as I work my way around the box and back to the front. It's a lot easier to add more than to take it off, right? Okay, so we're going to go all the way around and do it just like this. You got it? Simple. We can do this. No need to do the bottom, of course, though. Now, on the sides, I like to have a little more paint on my edges than I do in the center. So you'll see me kind of go a little bit heavier on the edges. But you don't have to do it that way. You can certainly make it your own. You also do not have to do the bottom, but I went ahead and did it just, you know, just for giggles, I guess. If you want a completed project, you can do it. I'm going to use the same technique on those little pots that I have. And we're going to use these pots for feet. You can also use like a little inexpensive chest kit, stuff like that for legs on little boxes too. I'm going to use some wood glue to attach these little feet to the box. A little bit of wood glue here and there. Mine is getting really sticky. Look at that. Looks like taffy or bubble gum. What a mess. And then I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue in the open areas. So we get a quick fix and we get a permanent fix. That's why we do the two different types. But if you have the time to wait, you can just use your wood glue and just give it time to set up. Just read the instructions on the bottle. This is simple, but it is messy. I've had this bottle forever. The spout's all clogged up. That's why I'm using a stick, but you certainly don't have to do it this way. I just keep everything, y'all. I really do. I keep it until I just can't keep it anymore. So we're going to add the next one down. And now y'all know exactly what to do. Continue around until you have all of those little feet on the box. And this box did have the little felt circles on the corners. That's what you're looking at, the little felt circles. Okay, now we have feet on the box. Nice. You could also do it upside down. I'm just going to use a weeding tool here to separate the plies on this napkin. This napkin has 3 plies. We want to be all the way down to 1 ply, but you see how sheer this is? If you put that down on top of the wood, it would really just kind of blend into the background, but I want mine to pop, so the lighter color is going to help that happen. I'm going to use some Mod Podge, and really I wanted just to use matte Mod Podge, so that's why I'm using the paper Mod Podge, but they really, I think, work the same way. I'm going to look and see how I would like to use this napkin, and I like the idea of it wrapping around the corner, so I'll use my brayer and flatten this on out. You need to be very gentle when you use napkins and when you use tissue paper. But yes, you also can use tissues that you wrap your gifts with, but you have to be very gentle. I am very, very lightly going across there, just barely laying any pressure on, because too much pressure and too much glue will cause your paper to tear. We don't want that. So I'm really trying to stretch out the amount of glue that I'm using to make it as thin as possible. I just make it thin and even. If you have clumps in there and it's not even, it's also going to cause wrinkling, tunneling, and bubbles, and you don't want that either. So just be cautious, because the results from decoupage and things like this can really be beautiful. And I hope you like what I do with this box. It's a little bit different than the next 2 projects, but you'll see. It's all inspired by nature. I love the beautiful flowers, and I think this piece in particular is perfect for springtime. Very, very gently going across there. Now I have no bubbles. There's a little bit of wrinkling in the end, which is fine with me, because If you are new to my channel, I love doing rustic and aged look. I love that. And it's so forgiving because, you know, you can blame it on, oh, well, that's rustic. That's how I intended for it to be. Okay, now I've just folded over my edges, but you can cut that off because I do paint over the top of them. Totally up to you. And this is the same white paint that we used on the sides and the bottom. Drop the brush, very important step. It's not going to get the same results if you don't drop it. Okay, now I'm going to take that Mod Podge and go right down over my edges just to make sure that everything is strongly in place and that those areas, if they were to get bumped on anything, they have a little more strength. Beefing it up. And then I'll take my other piece or another piece. We have quite a bit on the napkin, and I will find my next position. I like the idea of having it kind of across from it on the box. Y'all, these napkins are beautiful. If you're watching this video and you were on the Crafty Cruise getaway with us, thank you so much for bringing these. My friends who are doing this video will be using napkins as well. Yep, they will too. And by the way, this video is being shown on a Sunday for the collaboration, and I will not be having a video Monday. I will be back Thursday, for those of you who have been following me. Okay, so I'm going to take a sander and very lightly rake away the edges, just very lightly raking it across there. Now I know that you've probably seen this, but it makes it easier. You can cut this off with scissors if you want, though. This is completely to your taste. Make it your own. That's what this channel is all about. So now I'm just going back over the edges, like I said before, just to give it a little more security. I'm going to sand off the edge over here. And how pretty is this against that white? Look how beautiful that is. I am loving this already. The sad thing is I didn't have enough of this napkin to do the entire box, but I'm going to show you what you can do if that happens to you. If you use a smaller box, you won't have to worry about that. Or if you cut your sections smaller, you can really stretch it. This is totally up to you, but I'm going to make it work. So thin Mod Podge, very thin. I am taking the extra time to explain the Mod Podging because I've had people ask me about it before, and I want to be sure that you understand and you don't feel intimidated by the method. You can, like I said, really make some gorgeous stuff. I mean, just look at this napkin. This round, lacy looking, doily, delicate looking napkin. Perfect. Wait till you see what I use it for. All right, gonna go on the edges again. It's best if you wait, especially if you're new, till this is dry, but you can do it when it's damp if you feel comfortable. Just don't scoot anything around and don't touch the wet parts. All right, locking in those edges, same as before, just giving that a little bit of extra strength on the edges and on the bottom. Now for the side that doesn't have any napkin on it because we ran out, I'm going to tear just a piece of crafting paper. This came in a pack that I got from TEMU, and I'm just going to tear around the edge and make it rough looking and kind of old. Now you're going to see me use a different piece of paper. No worries, no worries. I'm going to switch it up. I decided on something else. Same idea though. It's the same pack, totally fine. And I'm just going to go over that. A little bit thicker of Mod Podge on this, and then put it down and then add another layer of Mod Podge on top, because this is a piece of cardstock paper and it can handle a little more glue. It's going to take a little more to seal it down. Once your piece is dry and all of your little napkins are dry, you can go back over it with some Mod Podge. This is why I like the matte, because it gives a good flat finish and secure everything. You can then dry it naturally, let it dry overnight if you would like, or you can use some type of a blow dryer or heating tool to dry yours. Now all of these projects are a little bit different, but they're all different types of cottage. So these are some things that I foraged for in my yard. Looks like a tiny little piece of a nest. We've got some turkey tail mushroom and some other types of fungus. I've got a little wreath form here, a little tiny wreath form, and then I've got some thrifted flowers, a little thrifted candle, and of course the lantern is thrifted, and here is some dark gray paint, same as we used before, and this beautiful little lantern. Now, if you can't find a lantern like this, that is not a big deal. You can get a lantern at Dollar Tree and probably do the same thing. Process may be different, but you can take the inspiration and do what you can with it. So clean it all up, and this has been cleaned up. I'm just going to slide the glass part off. You can see that this is metal. Love the color of the finish, but I don't like the color of the mirror light candle. So we're going to change that up and make it match a little bit better. I'm just going to take that paint and I'm going to put it on, at first I grabbed just a wet wipe that was dried out, and I'm just going to kind of pounce it up and down to just give it like something to grip the final coat to. So we're going to take all the shine down as much as you can, and also on the top, but don't get it on the candle wick. You could always tape that off if you're not sure of your space there. If you keep bumping your candle, just go ahead and tape it off. Then I'm going to take a little pouncer and I'm just going to go up and down with this. It's a little sponge brush. I don't know if you can get these at Dollar Tree or not, but it's worth trying, and they're very cheap if you have to get them at Hobby Lobby or someplace like that. So you see the difference here. Much better. Now with these thrifted pieces, I am just going to pull them off the stem, and then I will be able to break them down into smaller sections. I'm going to grab through this green mossy looking stuff, and I am going to protect my fingers, of course. And then I'll be laying this down on the wreath. I want to not put it on the top, but kind of on the outside toward the top. Not on the inside though, because we want that space to remain. It's going to go back in the lantern, so it needs to have room to go there. I've already tested it. It does fit. So as long as I keep that moss out of the way from the inside, everything will go back together perfectly. I am just really not that good with finger protectors. I use them. I recommend that you use them. I don't want anybody getting burned. Not on my watch, people. Not on my watch. Got to keep those crafty fingers healthy. But when you're using moss, it's very sheer, and I don't want to burn my fingers off. So yeah, we're going to protect them. And then I'm just kind of trimming out where it's a little bit thicker. And now you see how this fits right back on top. Just fit that right back in there, and it won't be in the way of the glass or anything. I'm going to make sure that I put a little glue in there to tack it down. Let it dry, and this is how it will look so far. I'll take those little floral picks and begin to kind of work with them. I just cut the little part where it attaches to the wire off so that it doesn't look so fake, and I'm going to glue it a little bit to the wreath underneath. Once it is attached on the bottom, then I'll take the little floral piece, or this little seeded piece, up to the top and just glue it right on the edge. Cut that little plastic part off again. We don't want to cheapen our look, right? And then we're going to add some glue to hold this down on the other side, just like we did the first side. You can put them on the back side of it too if you want, but I don't think that's necessary. I'm really just going for mainly decorating the front, but you will see I do put a lot of these turkey tails around into the back also. So I have a video where I'm walking around my yard checking stuff out and foraging, and I foraged these little turkey tails, and they come in a huge variety of colors. I hope to get more so I can show you what they look like. These are kind of a bluish gray with a little bit of tan, but there are some gorgeous colors. We have to wait until it rains, and since it rained so much yesterday, I bet they're going to be all over the place today, and I cannot wait. I actually found a little puffball mushroom in the yard yesterday when I was walking to the lake, and that's the first one I've seen so far this year, so I'm excited. If you're going to use these pieces from outside, be sure that you let them dry out so that they don't have any mold or anything in them, and then give them a good shake to make sure any little dead critters or whatever comes out. I'm not scared of that kind of stuff. I mean, I am the kind of person who walks around barefoot, and I will lay down in the grass. So I'm not afraid of dirt and minuscule germs. But if you are, that's okay. You know, you might want to bleach things, or I don't even know how you would, the way that you would do that. I don't even like the idea of thinking of all those chemicals. Ew. So I'm going to take after I've got all my turkey tails down where I like them, I am going to put that little piece of nest or whatever that is down in the bottom, and then put the candle on, slide the glass back over the top, and it's just going to clamp on there. And I didn't glue the candle down, that way I can turn it on and turn it off with no problem. And it's not going to go anywhere. It's kind of wedged into the grass and the sides. You can see it didn't even fall when I almost dropped it. You can see that how it is looking so far. Then you don't have to do anything to the top of your lantern if you don't want to, but for me, I think I want to add a little bit more. So I'll take some of these full pieces here, and I'm going to put them right on the handle. And this is me kind of trying to show you what I'm doing, because I don't have the angle that can show you every step I take. So I like to be able to pick up the project and kind of give you an idea of what's going on from time to time, so you can see what I'm doing. But if you were doing your own project, you'd be standing above it or sitting above it or whatever anyway. So this is how we do it. Just tied it with a little bit of jute, and again, cutting off those little cheapy ends. And then I'm going to hot glue it so it doesn't slide off or slip on that hanger. Get glue spider webs all over my fingers. I don't want any frays. Okay, so I like that. I've added a little bit of moss in the glue that was left there, and a little piece of turkey tail is going to be glued on there as well. I mean, this is going to be repeating the process all the way through, you know, seeing all the different little pieces that we put in it, replicating that. So a little bit of moss, a little bit of greenery. Then I'm just going to cut this off so it's better scale, and add it back in the middle of the greenery so it looks like a smaller piece. And that's how the lantern's going to look. We're going to start off with a little bit of jute, glue gun of course, and the glue sticks. I have a stem here of eucalyptus. I have some fix-all adhesive, one of a 3-pack of metal signs from Dollar Tree, and this thrifted sign that I got at Goodwill. So to start off, I'm going to decide where I want to put this metal sign, and it fits better on the arrow than it does on the plaque because it overhangs a little bit. So I'm just going to fix it down here. I'm going to use a little bit of this fix-all from Dollar Tree because it's going to give it longevity. It's going to hold for a long time. I also have some of these little adhesive foam squares to use in just a moment. And then I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue. Work really quickly when you use hot glue on metal because it'll set up and it won't stick. If you take too long, it cools on that metal. So it doesn't have any support in the middle. And I'm going to use this little foam adhesive square to put it there. You can get, these are some that I got, I think at Dirt Cheap, but I've had them a long time. But you can get these just about anywhere. I'm pretty sure you can get little foam sticker pieces at Dollar Tree as well. I'm just going to put it under there where it can't be seen, under the thick part of that O, and press it down. Be sure you pick off any of your hot glue that seeps out so it's nice and clean. Then I'm going to take a couple of pieces of this eucalyptus stem. But first, apparently, I'm going to make the bow. So I'm going to take this jute cord and leave a little bit of a tail and then wrap it about 14 times around my hand. I'm going to pull it off my hand, securing it so it doesn't unwind. Press it together in the center, and this is going to become our bow. So I'm going to tie it off in a few tight knots right in the center. This makes such a cute little floral type bow. I really like it. It's the first time I've done one this thick, but I thought it would look good with this. And this little sign's going to fit nicely into a neutral farmhouse or rustic decor. So I've just taken these loops, I've made some 12-inch loops, I'm cutting the ends, I'm going to fold them in half right in the center, and then the excess string that I have above I'm going to use to secure that to the back of what is going to be our bow. Just be sure when you get ready to hot glue it down that you remember that this is the back. Doing it this way also gives it a little more room for a little more surface area for the glue so that it has a better connection, and that it sticks better onto the surface that you're applying it to. Shouldn't be a problem. This is some rough wood here. Very old looking wood, very worn. So I'm just going to flip it all apart to make this cute little bow. I'm going to leave the tails nice and shaggy. Decide where we want to put the pieces. Now, if you want your tails shorter, you could cut them shorter. You can, whatever you want to do with it, depending on what kind of sign that you have. Here's the picks. And I'm going to secure them together with a little bit of jute. Just tying them together in case you don't have floral wire, floral tape, or whatever to tie them together. You can see that this jute works just fine for these smaller plastic type pieces. So I think I want to put it right in the center here, using a good bit of glue, and then going to hold that down. Now these are plastic and there's no wire in this particular part of these picks, so it's easy to kind of adjust them while the glue is still hot and they'll stay in place. So see what I mean? There's a lot of room for glue on the back of there, and it's going to stick down nicely to the jute that is on the greenery and onto the board. This sign originally had a big pink flower in the middle of it. I think it was pink. And a lady who was at Goodwill, one of my Goodwill friends, she gave it to me. She had it in her pile of stuff, and then she gave it to me. So then I'm going to take one little piece here and put it on the top, just for a little extra, little green on the top there. You can put more, but I don't want to overdo it.
We're going to use a little wood house and a card. So just grab any card you see over in Dollar Tree in their card aisle, and then these furniture markers also came from Dollar Tree in a 3-pack. So I saw this card at Goodwill and I loved the color and the print. It's so cute with all the little birds and the fall leaves, and it fits perfectly onto this card. There'll be a little excess that's gonna be removed, but that's okay. I'm just gonna sit it on top, kind of get my edges where they need to be, and then I'm going to center it where I like it, and off to the side is perfect, so that made it really easy for me. Then you can just use your fingers to press down a bit on the angles, and then cut it out with scissors, or you can flip it over on your cutting mat. I'm just going to give you some options, and trim it out with your blade and your cutting mat. Be super careful when you use a blade that you are not cutting toward your fingers, because these things are sharp. I did get this from Dollar Tree. I think it was in a 3-pack, y'all, over in the automotive or tool section. But they see how the blade fits right under the little chimney there. All I had was one little piece that was still stuck, and it just folded and popped straight off. All right, now see how nice that is? It's almost centered right in the middle of that house. I love it. So here are the 3 markers, and I'm going to show you what each color looks like, because they're all brown obviously, but they all have a little bit different of an undertone. So I'll just show you here. You can freeze it and zoom in, decide which color you like best. I've chosen cherry. And then I'm just going to start coloring it in. You can use your antiquing wax here if you want to, but for those of you who don't have the antiquing wax or a Walmart nearby, but you do have a Dollar Tree, you can stain things with these Dollar Tree furniture repair markers. That's what they're actually labeled as, I do believe. And I've used these on lots of projects. I even have fall projects that I use these markers on from last year and probably the year before. So, yes, you can use these markers to do your staining. So there's the roof, the sides, and the back. The front is clean because we don't need to waste our furniture marker on this, do we? We're not going to be looking at this part. We're just going to add some Mod Podge or school glue or whatever type of glue you want to use. I will say that once you put it down though, you need to let it dry before you start sanding off your edges, or you will have your project shifting around. So be sure that it is dry. Just walk away, work on another project until it is set in place. I'm just putting a thin layer here of the Mod Podge all over the front, and I'm going to place the card down right on top. Then you can press it down with your hands, roll it out if you would like, but you see how it shifts around? You got to be super careful. Once it's dry, go ahead and get whatever you want to sand with. I love my sanding block. And start shearing off the edges. Y'all, I am almost at 15,000 subscribers. I got up this morning, I checked it. I have 13 more to go before August 1st to get to my goal of 15,000 subscribers. I'm so excited. Thank you for all of you who have subscribed. There is going to be a giveaway, so be sure that you have your notification bell clicked when you are subscribed so that you do not miss out anything. Be sure that you check in the community tab as often as possible, because sometimes I do my giveaways through there and you don't want to miss out. Okay, so I went back over my lighter edges with the marker, and then I'm going to use the same technique we used on the tags to go over the house to give it a more of a rustic look. More aged, more homey, whatever you want to call it. Distressed can be called many different things. I'm just going to go over all of the little white edges. I'm going to pull it a little more toward the front. You can see here how it kind of fades inward. I love that look. Love it. And then you can also just take your finger, and if your background is like a stark white and you don't care for that, just go ahead and take your finger and drag it all the way across lightly like this, and it'll take that brightness.
Using some of this stone spray, we're going to use this vase from Dollar Tree, a wall vase, some Velcro dots, a little yard pick from Dollar Tree. Love them. There's several different kinds at my store, but I like the welcome. Some flowers. I wanted wild flowers, and some farmhouse witch hazel. And then this is a thrifted fern piece. I'm going to cut this jute off because I'm not going to need it right now. We're going to have to take the sticker off as well. Take your tags off. We're going to remove the stake from this little gnome. If you don't like gnomes, you can use whatever type of little yard sign you want to use for this. I'm going to use a little bit of cleaning spray just to wipe down the back of the gnome, because I don't want to have any oils from anybody's hands, any packaging, any lotion, nothing like that on there, because I want my Velcro dots to stick firmly down to the surface. So the scratchy side is going to go down on the gnome. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. You can do the other side down, but it doesn't matter one way or the other. Let that sit to the side for a minute and trim all your pieces off of the little bushes you have. So this is 3 coats. In between, it took me 2 days to do this because you have to let it dry quite some time. Still don't have the coverage that I like, so I'm going to make this look a little bit older using a natural sponge. And it's a dry sponge. I'm going to use some brown paint and then pat this around to make it look kind of grungy, kind of rusty, kind of old. Now for this, you can leave this part off if you want to. If you don't have that type of spray, you can just kind of dab on with a sponge any type of paint that you want to. I like that this looks either like it is somewhat stone, something that could actually be found in nature, or something that nature has taken back over, like some rusty something left out in the woods, a rusty can or something. If you get the sponge wet with your paint, it'll be a lighter, more see-through kind of finish. But if you use a dry sponge, you'll get this more opaque finish. Once that is dry, we're going to decide where the gnome's going to go. And then I'm going to peel off the backing for the little dot. You see there, they're both there. I'm going to add a little hot glue. Look at that paint sticking on it from my finger. I'm going to add some hot glue because I don't want this to come off. And I want to have a really strong hold for when we decide to take our little gnome off there. Now, sticking metal to metal is difficult. That's why I'm using the Velcro. If you want to use E6000, something like that, feel free to do it that way. You can skip this. But if you do it this way, you can pull that off and you could actually change your little front if you'd like to. You could change it for the seasons and then change your arrangements. Wouldn't that be cool? Taking some more of that packing foam and my little pool noodle knife from Dollar Tree, which I love, by the way. I am going to add a little bit of hot glue and put it down in there. I just trimmed those corners so that it would sit down flat. Now I'm going to take some jute and go through the back to make the little hanger, just to put that back in there before we start putting in our florals. Alright, so now I've got these beads. I'm pretty sure I either took these off of something or I found these while I was out thrifting. But I didn't get them from Dollar Tree. But you use whatever you have, and Dollar Tree definitely has a variety of beads. Some beads are already on the string for you. Just gotta look. If you can't find it at your store, check out store down the road, you know. So I like the look of this. I'm just gonna leave it natural like that, and then I'm gonna tie a knot right in the ends, leaving a little bit of slack so that I have a place to hang this. So now I've got a little loop in the top that it can be hung from. Easy. Alright, well this is my biggest piece and it is going to go in the back. I'm going to press it right down into that very dense foam. So you don't have to buy all of your stuff. You don't have to have a ton of money to buy, you know, some things. Save money where you can, like me getting the foam for free because it was something that would have been thrown away and I just recycled it to use it in my craft room. Cut it down into smaller pieces. Now I have a bucket full of it. Now I don't have to pay for that floral foam. Save myself $1.25, even more, because I can do so many projects with it. And you'll see that foam in many projects. Then you can use your money for more, you know, maybe you want to buy a more expensive pick from Hobby Lobby. If you saved your money doing with your foam, you could always do that. Okay, y'all, now look at these picks. These came from Dollar Tree as well. I don't remember what the tag said on them. When I grew up, you know, I grew up in the South, if you can't tell from my voice, we called these cuckleburrs. Cuckleburr, that's what we called them. So when I was doing this video, I looked it up to make sure that those were actually what I thought they were. And do y'all know the name for these is Cuckleburrow? B-U-R-R-O-W. See, when you grow up in a certain place, there are things that if you never write the word, you really don't know how you're pronouncing it. You just do it like everybody else does. Well, those are cuckleburrs to me. Y'all know how it is. And I'm sure even people that live further up north, y'all have your own ideas and your ways of pronouncing things, and I don't know. I think it makes us special. It's different, but different is special, right? So just keep placing down your little greenery and your flowers wherever you like. I love that the flowers that we used match the flower on his hat. So cute. It's coordinated and it makes it look like he's saying, "Welcome to my garden." He's got all these little flowers in the background. Super sweet. And I hope you like it. If you're enjoying this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. It means a lot to me. It shows me that I'm doing a good job, that you like what I'm doing, and it shows YouTube also.
Now this one is one we already had in the house. It belonged to my mother-in-law and it has seen better days. I think it was used for potty training probably for the kids, lots of grandbabies. So I'm going to give it a new life because I think that it is precious that she had it and I think we can fix it up. So after it's clean,
I'm going to have some Mod Podge. I'm going to have my fabric here. I'm also going to have some white chalk paint, which you will see in a moment. You can see the color underneath here, so I'm just going to trim off what I need, and then I am going to paint it with this plaster chalk paint, just on the top. This is going to make that fabric pop. You see the difference there? It really makes it pop. So I've already put my layer of Mod Podge down, and I'm pressing this down with my hands, and then I'm going to roll it with my Mod Podge roller. I'm going to go all around the edges really well. Then I'm going to go back over it with the Mod Podge and lay a good coat down all over the edges, all over the top, and all around. But I'm not going to do the sides of the top. We're going to have that taken off. You see here how I did it? It's going to take a little while to dry, but leave it in until it's completely dry. You can even wait till the next day. Then I'm going to take a sanding sponge with a coarse grit, and I am going to start shearing off the fabric we don't need. If you get enough of your Mod Podge on here, this will make the edges almost like paper, so it's a lot easier for that to come off. If you don't have sandpaper, you can always take your scissors or something like that and just trim it off. So I'm going to do this around all of my edges, and look how pretty this is. So cute. I'm just going to go back around and make sure there's no little frays here on the sides. It comes off easily with the sander. And then to distress this, I'm going to take a really heavy sandpaper that goes with my hand sander. But it's raining, so I can't do it. So I'm just going to use it by hand, and I'm just going to take nicks and chunks of paint off. I'm just going to go down to the wood surface underneath. There's actually like a cream color, there's white, and then the wood on the bottom. I'm going to go around there, all the way around the edges that would normally get wear, and then using a dry cloth for this, I'm going to take some of that wax, rub it in, and just lay it on thick. I'm going to put a good coat in there. I'm going to focus on all those scratches and just push it down into the wood areas. If it bothers you that the bottom is not, on your projects is not finished, you can go ahead and do that. But for this video, I didn't feel the need. And this is going to be used on my porch as a plant stand anyway. This is the vellum piece that I chose with the beautiful little fox on the bottom. And I'm going to use 2 of these papers, and they came from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use the Mod Podge and, of course, the little metal signs that we talked about. I'm going to use one for the back, and that's going to be the one that's a little more blurry, and then one for the front with the same colors that is a little more detailed. It really doesn't matter. It's totally up to you what you want to use on yours. You can use any scrapbook paper, and you could use solid colors if you prefer. But y'all know how I love my woodsy things. I'm just going to cut the bottom off to get a little bit more of that area on this print that I want to focus on. I'm not worried about the fact that I cut it a little too short. Measure yours if you want to be sure you get full coverage, but I'll show you what to do if you goof like I did. So I know I want the front to be the part that doesn't have the screws in it. So this is going to be our front piece with the circle cut out in the middle. I'm going to use Mod Podge and put a nice even layer, and I would say this is a thin layer. I mean, you can't see through it necessarily, but it's not globby. I don't want it to get too wet because it'll cause the paper to crinkle and wrinkle, and we don't want that. So I'm going to take that and put it on, just kind of sit it up against the base here, the wooden base, and I have it offset because I want that tree in the side to be in focus. So I'm just going to pat it down with my hands. Now, an important part of this, for me anyway, and I hope this helps you as well, is to go over this so that it is sealed on the edges. You want to seal it around the edge of the circle and on the outside edges. It's going to make it easier when you're ready to cut this. I'm using a squeegee to press this in place. You can use a gift card or your driver's license if you don't have a squeegee. Then I'm going to focus on what's going to be the back part. And it's pretty much the same process. I'm going to grab that Mod Podge and go all over it. Thank you so much for all the kind words and prayers and light and encouragement that you guys have given me since my last post when I was struggling. I have never heard more kind and supportive and loving. People were sharing their stories with me. People were, telling me things that they have been suffering right now and the struggles they have been through. And I'm serious, y'all, when I say you brought me to tears. Joyous tears, though, the support that y'all give me, it just truly feels like a family. And I can't thank y'all enough for that. I think of you the same way. I really do. All right, so now we're going to let this dry. I'll just leave mine. I left this overnight, but leave it as long as you need to. Read your Mod Podge instructions. If you don't have Mod Podge, you can definitely use school glue here if you would like. I'm going to use a sander and just sand away the edges, but you can do it a variety of ways, and I'll show you a little bit different in a moment. I stepped into the edge right underneath the roof line there, just to make it easier and so nothing would tear, and then sand down and away. Gives you a nice crisp edge. It is going to be a little bit of a rough edge, but we're going to cover that up, so that is not anything that you need to worry about. See, that's easy to do. I would think that's beginner friendly, right? Now, because we used the Mod Podge on the back, the texture of the paper is a lot thicker. It's not going to tear as easily. So I'm going to use a utility knife or whatever blade that you have, and I'm just going to punch a hole and then just go up and down, kind of sawing through it, because the texture of the paper, like I said, has changed once you put the Mod Podge on it. It's a lot stronger. Take your time with this because you don't want to tear this. So you can see, I think you can see better than me trying to explain it. I'm going to push it to the back, and you can tear off those pieces if you feel like they're going to come away easily. Just give it a little pull and pull it down and through that hole. Don't pull it the other way, or you'll pull it completely off of your round or your metal piece. And then I'm going to take my little sander and go all around the edges and sand from the inside outward and then back and forth. And I can do that because I sealed it all the way around, so it's very tough. Be careful, experiment, take your time, see what works for you. Here is the front. Now we're going to move on to the back, because I know not every Dollar Tree is going to have the same thing. Really quickly, I want to say, if you're enjoying what you're watching here today, if you're enjoying our conversation, the support, the love, you can return that to me by subscribing to the channel. I am getting it back together, y'all. I have so many updates for y'all. I've got so much I need to tell y'all. Life is changing. I'm excited. So y'all please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give me a like if you're enjoying this video. And I'll love you forever. All right, so I'm going to go all around the edges. I left the little chimney on there, but I'm going to cover it up because I decided that where I thought maybe it would look sort of like a tree stump or a tree top, it just was too light on that corner. So I'm going to do something to make it look better. Don't you worry. Now I know I need to cut down this little fox, so I've cut it down and stuck it on the back. I'm going to grab my aging wax, whatever kind of wax you want. You could use a furniture marker, a furniture repair marker from Dollar Tree for this too, if you would like. It's going to be a little bit sharper of an edge though, and I like how this kind of fades out. I'm just using a little finger dauber, and I'm going to go all the way around the edges and that inner circle, and I'll do the same thing to the back. And that's where I left it galvanized on the top because I cut it too short. So I'm just going to daub it on there, and it will stay. I'll get as much on there and as much shading as I want around those edges, and then I can just put it down and let it dry. Just letting the tip of it dry and add a little more onto it. And then I'll use some double stick tape, which I've already put down, and then press this vellum right into that double stick tape. You can color your bottoms with the wax if you want to, but I'm going to leave mine just like they are, just for a time saver. I'm going to go along on the back piece, same thing. I got it a little too short in the corner. I'm going to put wax on there and let it dry, and you'll never know if that metal is still there. Going all around that. You could also probably bend that back or cut that off if you want, but I'm trying to show you the easy way if you don't have the tools to do all that. I'm going to use my finger dauber and go all over this section where it is going to kind of stick out past the front section of it. and just rub on some of that to give it like maybe like a tree color, like a log or something in the back. You know how treetops fall out during storms and all you have is the trunk that's left up there. I'm thinking maybe I can be a little more convincing if I do it this way. Now, you see the hardware pieces are on the inside. I'll add hot glue or any adhesive you want. Give it a second to set up. And when I put my light in, look at the little fox in the hole. I love this, y'all. If you need the link to the papers that I use, please, please, please feel free to comment, and I'll be glad to share that with you. Might actually already have that down in the description box, so be sure you check that. I got a little wrinkle in the top. It's okay. All right, so we're going to use 3 of these signs. We'll use 1 with a circle and 2 with the chimney. I'm going to use a paint stir stick, some paint brushes, and these are the 3 that I chose. These are all my little chalk paints. I'm also going to use a piece of this little fencing. You can find it with miniatures in whatever craft store you go to. I'm going to start on the first house by painting it the first color that I choose. And I just chose some colors that are shades of green. Love my chalk paint. It gives such good coverage, and you don't have to use more than 1 coat unless you just choose to. Here is the next color. If you want to know what shades I use, feel free to comment and I will let you know. And then here's the third. Now, something I will tell you that if you use paint brushes to put on glue and Mod Podge as well, keep your paint brushes and the brushes designated for adhesives separate, because I think that's what happened with my brush here. It was left pretty streaky. I think maybe I used it for glue. That's okay. I let it dry, and then you want to add another coat, you add another coat. I'm just using a heat tool, like I said, for speed so I can get you the video. And then once it's dry, I'm going to connect my little houses because it's going to be our house in the middle of the street, right? Y'all know that song? I know you do. I'm going to add some glue to this stick, and this is how we're going to attach these because it won't have enough strength if we attach these on the sides. So doing it this way, they'll all be together, and we're going to make this bottom, this little base that we put underneath it, disappear with paint in a little bit, so you won't have to worry about that. But it gives it a nice little piece to keep it stable. We're going to add the next one down, and you can definitely use a different type of glue if you want, super glue or whatever, but this worked for me for speed. And there we go. Now our houses are together. I did overlap the center house over the little roof of the other 2 houses. I'll take some brown chalk paint and go all over the entire bottom. It's going to be a muddy yard in the south. If you want to use green, you can use green, but I decided to use brown because I chose green for my houses. I don't want everything to blend in too much, right? You can definitely paint the back of your houses too. You see how the paint stir stick, it just kind of disappears once you paint it? Perfect. And these little decor pieces like this that we create are so good for narrow, skinny little shelves. They work so good. Now, once everything is dry, look what you can do. This could be a little peekaboo thing. You can put any type of little Dollar Tree miniature, the little village pieces they have in there, or the garden pieces. Here's another idea if you wanted to use mushrooms. You don't even have to glue them down, and you can make it seasonal and use seasonal pieces in there. I decided to add a little fence. I just folded the edges, and I'm going to place it down there. It stays without adding any glue. And then I thought, well, let's embellish these houses. I'm going to make them look a little more real, because what if that's what you want to do? I'll take some Dollar Tree stickers, and they have sort of a metallic look on them. Love it. And I am going to add doors and windows to the houses. Just decorative, right? Just a little something fun. You can use your paint markers and draw something. You can use stickers. You can use little pieces of wood if you would like, and wood chips. Whatever makes your little heart happy, right? But I love this idea, especially knowing that I'm going to be moving and I'm going to have new neighbors, and my kids will have kids to play with, and it's just so exciting. So yeah, gotta have a little something special with houses and neighbors, right? Do you know your neighbors? Do you talk to your neighbors? Do you have coffee with your neighbors? I mean, I act like I've never had a neighbor before, but it's been a long time since I've had a neighbor. So, yeah, I kind of like to know how you get along with your neighbors. There is the adorableness of this little set of houses, our little neighborhood, our little hi neighbor. And here we go. This is what it looks like if you choose to use it just this way and you don't want to use it any other way. You could sit this in your kitchen window. Wouldn't that be cute? And the light would shine through the center of that house. That would be so pretty. Or you can put a candle in there. So many people like the light up projects, and I'm glad. I've done lots of light up projects. Thank you so much for stopping by. Check out this next video in the rectangle. See you soon.